This video goes with section 122 of Hansen and Quinn's Greek and Intensive course, and it covers the irregular aspects of the verb gignosco. You can find it in Hansen and Quinn on pages 462 to 463. Gignosco comes in these 6 principal parts: gignosco, gnosomai, agnon, agnoka, agnosmai, agnosthane. So you see there we've got a deponent future, and we've got a consonant stem in the 5th principal part, and unusual reduplication in the 4th and 5th principal part. But all of those are things that you know how to deal with already. What is a little bit different here is the 3rd principal part. It's actually an athematic verb. It's a me verb, but only in the 3rd principal part. And so we're going to treat it the way we treated the mixed aorists of didomi, histemi, and tithemi. And it's going to behave in some ways like didomi and a lot of ways like histemi because it's a root aorist. So we're going to need to know its long grade stem for things in the indicative, the imperative, and the infinitive. And that long grade is going to be gno. And it's going to have a short grade stem for all the other forms, and that is going to be gnaw. So you just have to get used to that idea with this particular verb, and I don't think you're going to have a problem identifying the various forms, but we'll go over them in detail now. So the aorist, indicative, active, and it's athematic, as we said, root aorist for gignosco, which, by the way, has no middle forms from the aorist, goes this way. First of all, we're going to use the long grade and these endings. So these are the endings you're familiar from already from the root aorist of histemi. And so with that long grade, we're going to put the augmented long grade stem, agno, through here, and then we will put on those endings. And what we'll get once we put on the recessive accent is agnon, agnos, agno, agnomen, agnota, agnoson. So I recognized, you recognized, she recognized, we recognized, y'all recognized, and they recognized. We can go on now to the subjunctive active athematic version of this word. And our endings are going to be those subjunctive endings that we've known for so long. And for this, we're going to need the short grade stem. And so if I go ahead and put those in there, and then we've got gnaw for all 6 words. But what's going to happen here is exactly what happened with didomi with the short grade aorist subjunctive active, where we treat it as if it's an omicron contract with those endings. And so what you get instead are these endings, which, after we put on the recessive accent, is going to be gno, gnos, gno, gnomen, gnota, gnosi, with that new movable. So you can recognize the difference between first person singular and third person singular by the iota subscript. And I think you will recognize most of the time those unaugmented forms with those long endings as the subjunctive. So now we can go on to the optative. Here again, we're going to have endings that are familiar to us from the things that we did with the other me verbs. And we're going to choose the short grade gnaw. We'll put those in there. And then we get to add those endings, which conveniently make nice diphthongs with the omicron of the short grade ending. And so we're going to add the recessive accent and get gnoien, gnoies, gnoie, gnoiemen, gnoieta, gnoieson. Now we also have alternative endings for the plural, where we add them to those short grade and keep the accent only as far back as the iota. And so what we get is gnoimen, gnoite, gnoien. So that's an alternative for the aorist optative active of gignosco. Let's move on to the aorist imperative active. So here we're doing a root aorist version of the imperative, and that means we're going to take off the augment, and we're going to use these endings, which you've seen before with estane and for histemi, and we're going to use the long grade and add those endings. Now, the only place that the long grade gets changed is before the t sound in the third person plural. So that shortens the omega to an omicron. So we're going to add the recessive accent, and we're going to get gnothi, gnoto, gnote, gnontone. So that is know, let her know, y'all know, and let them know for the aorist imperative active. Now, this is actually a pretty famous imperative. You may even have heard it before. Gnothi seauton, using our new reflexive pronouns, means know yourself. And this was said by Pausanias and other ancient sources to be inscribed over the door of the temple at Delphi, the great Apollo temple at Delphi. And you may see it in other places, and now you will recognize it. So here it is on a mosaic from San Gregorio, the church in Rome, and you can see there that it is the contracted version of seauton. We get gnothi seauton, and don't be freaked out by this sigma. That's called a lunate sigma. It looks like a C, and it's called lunate because it's in the shape of a moon. And you'll see that as an alternative sigma shape quite frequently. So, gnothi seauton, know yourself. Let's go on to a few more forms for gignosco's aorist. The infinitive active is again going to use the long grade, and it's going to use the ending ni that we're so familiar with for active infinitives. And when you put the accent on, you get gnoni, to know, to recognize, to perceive. And that just leaves the participle. Here it's the short grade with the same combination of endings that you got with didomi and its participle forms. And so that's going to look like this. And I'm just going to give you the nominative and the genitive, because then you can form the rest from the genitive and the stems that you get from taking off the endings. So we get gnus, gnusa, gnon, gnontos, gnuses, gnontos. So that means the stems for the rest of the participles will be gnont in the masculine and the neuter, and gnus in the feminine. And you know what to do with those and all the rest of the cases and numbers and genders. And although that was brief, that really covers all you need to know about the athematic forms in the aorist of gignosco. So do your drills and practice, and I don't think you'll have much trouble recognizing these at all.